The following is an excerpt from the FHA and VA approval process interview from earlier this year.
You're listening to The Andre Segovia Show.
What happened was I got contacted by a veteran who also happens to work in the Veteran Affairs Department. And he and I were acquainted through a friend. So we got along pretty well. We connected a lot with movies. We had very different perspectives on the directors that we like, but a mutual respect. And that was a good starting point for us to connect. So he kept me in mind and tuned into my show. And he called me one day and said, "Hey, look, your last episode really spoke to me. I want to finally purchase my first property." And he was going to go through the VA, and he already had a lender he was working with and everything. Like, okay, great. So whenever I have a buyer coming with their own lender, I already know I have to have my contingency plans in place, because it isn't the first time, nor will it be the last time that a buyer brought their own lender and I didn't close the deal with their lender. And in this case, it was through the Veteran Affairs Department. So I'm like, okay, then maybe this is someone I got to deal with. But the lender was in Florida. So we already had a 3-hour hour difference we're not working in the same time zone. And whenever communication comes through to me, they're probably closed. So and by the time I hear back, it's not on time. And because of the way it's structured and a lot of red tape, I couldn't just make a phone call. It had to be an email that had to somehow get to so-and-so to eventually get to me. Well, I did get acquainted with the lender. We got along pretty well. And they gave me direction about hey, look, we have a process. We don't approve everything. So you got to look for an approved building to make this happen. So here's the website. Okay. I went to the website. It was HUD. It had FHA condos. But since they gave me the website, I'm like, hey, we'll see here. So as I did my buyer's tour and everything, I was looking through with my buyer. And we found a lot of these, and we were really settling on Watermark. There were at least 3 listings that he liked there, different positions on that building. He liked it. It's great. Negotiated with the seller on 2 of them. One of them said, "All right, we can make this work. We'll work with VA." So, okay, great. And that's what we did. So the offer was submitted, turned the paperwork over to the VA. I think that was a Friday. And this is what I did. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't wait till the last moment. So I submitted the paperwork over to the VA on a Friday. I had, this was day 3 into opening escrow. I had already lined up the home inspection and the termite inspection, same weekend, took care, knocked it all out of the park just because of why am I going to wait? Let's just get this over with. Monday, hey, I think the email came in around 4 a.m. It's hey, this building is not approved by the VA. It's well, my buyer just spent the money on a home inspection report. And I already got the termite company to have gone out there and they checked it out and took care of what they needed to take care of. It's okay. Because I was dealing with a veteran. There are veterans that might experience PTSD from certain things. So there's vulnerabilities that agents that are probably not used to handling with individuals might not be entirely aware of why someone might react that way or whatever. So in my case, I always have to keep in mind that just anything could trigger some kind of anxiety or something. And this did throw my buyer into a panic. And I told him, hey, don't worry about it. I have contingency plans. This is not the end of the world, and if we have to cancel, you get your money back. It's okay, and we can move on to the next one. But now we know this thing is not approved by the VA. But let me check to see what the process might be like. So I got in contact with the HOA at the Watermark. They gave me some direction. It could be because they do FHA. Maybe we could get a VA approved. So yeah, but how long does it take? They didn't really have an answer for that, but they say they were willing to play. Okay. Then I told them, look, I can do the legwork to try to get everything figured out to see what we can do. But I just need you to be on board when the time comes to help me prepare to turn everything over to the VA. It's we're willing to do it. Let's just let's just see what happens. And I actually condensed that part of the story because I had to push them a bit. They're like, well, we're not really going to push it through. FHA is one thing, but VA, whatever. And that's how I ended up going to Google and just looking up like VA approved condo process, whatever it was, the Google search. And that's how I came across your website. And the first phone call I made, you picked up the phone. So little did I know, I was talking to the president of the FHA review. And secondly, I think if I recall correctly, you told me you were very familiar with the HOA at the watermark.
Very familiar.
Yeah, so
First place I ever lived in Orange County.
And I thought like, okay, so this is a sign from God that this is someone I can work with, because what are the odds that I'm going to be running
crazy,
into?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've lived in one condo building in Orange County, and that was it.
And that was it. It's so like,
yeah.
And you reassured me, like the confidence in your voice was like, okay, I can get this done. I just need to know what to do. And you were providing me the answers. I think you got in touch too with, I think it was a Kelly Moss or something. Kelsey, over at the watermark, right? So, and connected, and it looked like, hey, look, we can get it done. So then the big question was, how long does the process of approving a building even take? And I don't recall, what was your answer on that one, like especially for a VA?
It was probably, I can't give you 100% answer because it's so wildly different. Mm-hmm. It's going to be within probably 1 week to 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. I've had it go over the 3 weeks, and I've had him honestly right now turned around in a couple of days. So at that, it's insanely different. But I generally say we can get it done within 3 weeks. I wish I had a firmer answer, but I probably said that.
No, and it was like, I know it tends to be on a case-by-case basis, but I believe you had told me at the time it was, we can look for an optimistic response within 2 to 3 weeks. And because of your experience, you can get it done. And because you were familiar with the place, you said, this place, there's no reason why it shouldn't be VA approved. It meets the criteria. So I'm like, here's from someone that actually lived there and knows what it looks like on the ground, not just someone that lives out of the state and says, it should be approved. Like, you haven't seen it before. So like, okay, so I went back to the sellers after going back to my buyers. Like, look, I think I get this done. I just need to know if everybody else is going to be in play. I got a third-party service that's willing to do the submittal process for the HOA at the watermark who happens to be on board. I got in touch with my lender, not your lender. I said that you work with. I got in touch with my lender. I sent him everything that he needed. He just needs you to provide everything else and give your consent. And he can swoop in and say the deal like he did before yet again. And I told him, I got everything. Let me just get the sellers. Like an hour later, the seller says, we're willing to wait because you took care of everything already. And we're still within the 45-day window to get the 3 weeks response. So they say they're game. Like, so long as it doesn't go beyond the escrow that we already agreed to. So like, great. I have everyone on board. So I just have my buyer. Would you like to go through this process? Otherwise, we'll just go find an approved building because I know what it's like to be literally sitting in suspense because everything else has already been approved. And guess what? I got the appraisal in the next week. So the appraisal was contingent on getting the building VA approved. So all we needed was the VA to come in and save this thing. Like, just, it's approved. Let's go for it. So he said yes. And we got everything was lined up and great. So I had to be prepared for the plan C. Plan C being that the VA does not approve this thing or doesn't approve it in time. And we got to look elsewhere in case the sellers also get upset. The 3 weeks went by and we still didn't hear anything back. And I think it was Greg from your office told me that, hey, look, you know what could help is if your veteran gives a call to the department and see where it is, and maybe they can help nudge it into the queue to speed up. Like, oh, okay. And when I told that to my buyer, the first thing I thought of was, I'm gonna get a call back from him in a panic. And sure enough, like an hour later, he says, urgent. Like, crap. So then he was like telling me he was out of it. He was out of the building. He was just so nervous. It's like they haven't even received it. Like, oh boy. So that's kind of what I expected. because that's what happens with bureaucracy. So I told him, don't worry about it. I'm going to look into it, find out what's up. I expected this answer that nothing was being done on their side. So let me get in contact with FHA and see what can be done. And Greg got connected with someone else. And that I think it was at the VA or something like that. But I believe the VA is separated in terms of districts in which who handles what when it comes to loan processing. I think this one was in Arizona. So they were able to get in touch with someone over there. It's like, oh yeah, look, it is here. Someone just didn't look right. And I think that was a Friday. By Monday, we had the approval from the VA, and it was like, we got it done. It's like, we got it done. It's like, well, I said during the pre-interview, where the transaction almost killed me. I dragged everybody in that transaction. Everybody. It was a mess. I don't want to dive into that one because that's my PTSD, but that one prepared me for something like this. It's like, look, anything that could go wrong will go wrong, and we're dealing with the government here. So odds are something's going to happen. I'm ready for whatever curveball they're going to throw at me. And I'm so happy to have experienced that. So this is in a way also a review for y'all. I'm really happy about that. But I think what resonated with me the most was the fact that I discovered your company because of the VA needs. And there was a veteran that I ran into, senior, must have been in his 80s. I don't like the way he was treated at a mobile store. Don't know if I should name drop them. It was here in Orange County, and he was just wanting to look to pay his bill, and he was used to the kiosk being there so he could pay it. And I've been standing in line waiting forever. I'm like, I don't mind letting him get ahead of me, but no, even the manager there just said, "Oh yeah, we don't have those kiosks here anymore." So like, well, like, can't you process it for him? Is that, oh no, we're not one of those AT&Ts anymore. It's like a third party AT&T. Oh, I just name dropped them. Well, I don't like AT&T either. So, but anyway, they told him, "Oh yeah, go drive, go find another one." He's like, but they don't give him any direction. And so I came over to the senior gentleman. I told him, "Hey, look, there is an AT&T, an actual one, and you can go. It's just a few blocks down the same street that you're on, and you should be able to find it. There to your right hand side. If there's any issues, by all means, please." Here's my card. I don't know what else I could do for you, but if I can assist you in any way, I can. And he saw my card, and it's like, "Oh, you're a realtor." It's like, "Yeah." "Do you work with VA buyers?" It's like, "I do now."
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Andre Segovia Show. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the know. If you want a question featured on the program, or you never know, it could be an episode all on its own, you can message me at any of the social media links available at my website, www.theandresegovia.com. Also available there are all the directories where you can find my show. Remember to also follow me on YouTube and Instagram, where other exclusive content resides. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the program. I'll see you on the next one.